Hi, I'm Doug McKenzie and welcome to the Fintech Show. Today we're going to be looking into what is next for cloud-based technology. Now, a year ago we were still asking whether particularly the larger institutions would actually be brave enough to adopt cloud technology. Now that seems a given. Those who have been able to test, learn and adopt it. Now we need to change our question to what is next for cloud technology when it comes to financial services and the delivering of payments transactions. To find out more, I went to Dubai to catch up with Roland Brandli from SmartStream Technologies, an organisation that uses the most advanced technologies to help their customers realise their digital strategies. SmartStream provide the fastest cloud-native, pure AI data quality application to help institutions grapple with the operational change. And joining me in the studio is Gary Delooze, the CTO from Nationwide, the world's largest building society. And Gary was a central part of Nationwide's cloud transformation journey and crucial in their ability to pivot in 2020. Now, I also caught up with fintech finance regular Wayne Freeman from the digitally native bank Mettle, and they have the backing of parent company NatWest, enabling them to innovate and scale in a way rarely seen in the industry. So, Roland, can you give us your full name, your job role, and for our audience who might not be aware, a bit of a background to SmartStream, please?
Well, my name's Roland Brandli, and I'm a strategic product manager for SmartStream. SmartStream is all about control. So we've been around for 30, 40 years, and we started off with delivering control to banks at the time. Obviously, nowadays we do this enterprise-wide, but it's all about making sure that a product that a bank serves to its customers is delivered on time, in the correct quality, so that the customer can use it.
Absolutely amazing. Now, we're going to be deep diving into cloud-based technology, and some people say it's revolutionized really the way a lot of verticals can operate. Now, what are the opportunities in particular for financial institutions and organizations can look to when adopting a cloud-based system or solution? And is it almost fair to say that maybe some of the traditional institutions haven't adopted at the pace that we were expecting it? And why is that?
So I think, as with every new technology, adoption at the beginning, people are very careful about, especially with cloud technology, because first of all, it feels like you're giving, your operation or your data to a third party, and that worries a lot of people. But ultimately, yes, it is a game changer, because with the power of cloud, you can adapt much more and you can scale much better, also much more cost efficiently, and also it gives you so much more flexibility. So as an example, during the crisis with COVID, SmartStream, basically, because we were already on cloud and not using our own data center, managed within a week to move 1,000 people to working from home, which is a great advantage. And cloud has a lot more to offer as well.
Yeah, that is huge. Now, with that in mind, being able to be able to adapt in times of crises like that, financial institutions need that lowering that risk. But apart from that, what are maybe some of the other KPIs that cloud-based technology can provide these institutions?
Well, again, a cloud obviously offers a much higher base of scalability, more than you can maintain in your own data center. And it's much cheaper because you only use the resources when you need them, where in a data center, I have to have those resources redundant. But I think one of the greatest opportunities around cloud is security. So we all struggle with security. It's become the most important thing to any organization, but also to any consumer. And we all want our data to be held carefully where it can't be accessed. Now, the cloud offers benefits that no bank on its own could carry. The big cloud vendors like Amazon, like Azure, like Google, spend billions every year just in security.
Now at Nationwide, you've moved your website to the Azure cloud, and I'm really interested in what lessons you learned from that migration and really regarding that transformation to the cloud and how it can really add value to institutions like Nationwide. If I could also ask as well, what choices are you going to be looking at prioritizing going forward that you took from those lessons?
Okay, that's great. So I guess for us, some of the lessons that we went through during that period were, it's quite easy in many respects to build a very simple cloud environment. And as I said, moving the website from on-premise and all the content management systems and services that sit behind that to a cloud environment was pretty straightforward. The challenge becomes, in a public cloud environment, you are taking on some more risk. So you're hosting your technology in someone else's data center, you're running it on their services. So that risk requires a set of controls to be built around that. And then for us, that then becomes the real focus of that journey is, what are the risks that we are taking on that are different from our on-premise capability? What controls, therefore, do we need to build around that to ensure that we protect our members for everything from identity management to make sure we sort of protect people's identity, all the way through to making sure we don't lose data and we don't get hacked and all of the various things that we need to do to protect that site in the public cloud. So we have a cloud controls framework that we've built over the last few years. We looked at that and said, right, what do we need to do within the context of that controls framework? And then working with the regulators who are taking a far more active and more engaged role in the work that we're doing in cloud. The real focus was to help them understand how we've approached this and what are the risks that we see. How do we put the controls in place to be able to mitigate and manage those risks, and then make sure that they're comfortable that we're really sort of moving forward and taking an appropriate level of risk and control management through that process and that cycle. And then, of course, once you get to the point where you're at the point where you're saying, right, everything from a risk perspective is understood, from a controls perspective, they're tested, they're in place, they're active, they're effective. Then how do we make sure that we sort of learn from that in terms of we want to put more sites out? Obviously, over time, we'll have more content on that site, but we'll also have more sites like the .co.uk site. So how do we take the lessons learned there and then look at ways in which we can automate that? So a lot of the work for first generation stuff typically is very manual. So you'll focus on sort of building those controls, making sure they're effective. Once you've got them, the real lesson is, how do I automate that?
Are cloud-based systems more secure than on-prem ones? I guess it just depends on how they're built. I think they are, fundamentally, it's a completely different paradigm. Hosting your applications or your platforms in the public cloud means it's actually accessible could be accessible by any computer on the planet. How you architect appropriately, what tools you use, what partners you use, and how you secure your interactions with these partners, all of those things are really important. I think there is a huge paradigm shift, and if architected properly, I think we've now seen that actually it can be safer than on-prem systems. I think that we're moving from a world where security has a focus on building very high walls around something, where once you get over that high wall, you have access to the crown jewels. Many organizations, much like ours, follow a zero trust security model where every single interaction is authenticated and authorized, which just we believe just gives us considerable more security strength in depth.
How can SmartStream help these financial institutions enjoy that same level of adaptability that you yourself enjoy?
Well, we are definitely seeing that transition. So definitely a lot of financial institutions are moving to the cloud, be it a private or a public cloud. And a lot of it is around that resilience. But it's also the pandemic has created a huge amount of volume. If you think about it, before the pandemic, a lot of people would still go to an ATM, get £100 a week, and with that they would buy their 20 or 30 coffees, which was one transaction. Now, they are all using contactless payments. So you get 20 or 30 transactions in opposition to the one. Additionally, you get bank-to-bank payments as well. So the volumes have grown exponentially, and for that you need computing power. And there's nowhere cheaper availability of computing power than in the cloud.
Yeah, it's a really interesting challenge, I think, trying to transform huge organizations' financial platforms, systems, many of which may have been live for 40 plus years. This is obviously no trivial task. And I think, I think we've also realized that taking those platforms and potentially lifting and shifting into the cloud just doesn't maximize the value, doesn't deliver the operational benefit you'd want, and certainly doesn't even come close to helping with any costs. And I think it's, but also all of the regulation, all of the compliance, all of the security, privacy aspects that come with it also need a rethink. And it's very difficult to do that at absolutely massive scale. And I think in Mettle, I feel very privileged that we've had the opportunity to start in a relatively greenfield way, learn from, all of the experience from the bank, whilst actually being able to build a banking platform and product cloud natively from the ground up has definitely been, a huge benefit to us.
We are progressively adopting cloud, and we've been doing that now for the last 5 years or so. And I guess probably the way we describe it is sort of quietly, stealthily in the background. More and more of the workload that we run has been moving to cloud service providers. As of today, we probably run about 20% of our IT estate in the cloud on public cloud services. So over time, that will increase, and you'll see more and more services be cloud hosted. The obvious question is, why are we doing it? And the answer is for multiple reasons. It gives us tremendous agility. So the speed at which we can mobilize cloud environments, build new services on those environments is far greater than if we do that on premise ourselves. Added to that, the resilience of cloud environments. There's a lot of investment that cloud providers have put into creating really resilient environments with multiple zones, multiple regions, even using multiple cloud providers now as possible. So we can build far more resilient capabilities than we ever have done. And of course, as you say, innovation, we have access to new capabilities now. Cloud is where a lot of the innovation is occurring. Therefore, for us, it gives us access to new capabilities, new data services, everything from new AI algorithms through to different ways in which we can manage our code. So really, it's about getting access to those as well. So it gives us a huge amount of opportunity.
Can you tell me a bit more about how cloud-based technology can help operational efficiency for banks in their back end?
Well, the cloud itself obviously has this huge advantage of scalability. You only use as much performance as you need at that time. So if I'm processing a small amount of transactions, I only need small computing power. If I'm processing suddenly one day 300,000 or 3 million or 30 million transactions, for that moment, I use the resources from the cloud. As soon as the processing has finished, we drop it. Now, in a traditional environment, you'd have to have the servers there available to do that. So you're paying for those servers maybe, but one day a year, you would need to process 30 million transactions, but you're paying them all year. And that's a different cost basis. As well as the fact is, you always constantly have to buy new hardware. In a cloud, you don't worry about that. The cloud takes care of that. Even the same way as when you're using SmartStream software, you would originally have to worry about keeping the software up to date, upgrading it. That's not your worry anymore. We take care of that. So all you have to do is really use it. And that makes it much more convenient and cheaper.
Some of these financial institutions are multi-layered, very traditional, held back by legacy. How does SmartStream operate in that circle and really help them kind of become as quick as the new kids on the block?
Well, I think one of the things is obviously we have the experience when we're building software from the last 20, 30 years to know the pitfalls and to know the requirements. At the same time, we're investing a huge amount of money into products like SmartStream Air, which is a 100% cloud, 100% AI-driven technology, which is a game changer. But we're also taking our clients with on that journey. So we have other products where we also have legacy products. But the difference with a company like SmartStream is we don't say, oh, here's a shiny new box, throw everything away that you had. No, we transition you. We take all that existing data, all that existing work and configurations that you've invested a lot of money in and bring that into a brand new technology stack. And that's, something that is, I think, really important in terms of our pedigree. Yeah. On the other hand, we know there's a lot of efficiency gains we can make, but we're also very careful. So when we formed our innovation labs for the AI technologies, the brief was we only build AI where we have a proven return on investment. Because some of the requests coming from people were, oh, I'd love an AI to do this, I'd love an AI to do that. And in the end, it saves them 2-3 days of work a year. Doesn't make sense. What you need is AIs that actually help them mitigate problems, help them mitigate issues. I think one of the most interesting things where we see AI also helping, apart from reducing things like manual work, is we have an AI that learns from user interaction. Now, that's great as a COO to see, well, it uses less manual touch points. But for me as a COO, what I'm really interested in is how do I keep my business sustainable? So what happens when someone who's doing a lot of manual work goes on holiday, gets ill, or post-COVID changes his job? I'm going to lose all that skill set. So to have an AI that learns from what he's doing creates for me a concept of being able to build a sustainable business that should he be once sick or ill, I don't have any loss in efficiency. And that's a completely different way of looking at things. And I think that's where those technologies will help us. And again, lots of people worry about AI replacing their jobs. I don't think that'll happen. What it will do, though, is it will enable them to focus on the things that really need brain power, that really bring value. And let's face it, I think everybody wants to feel valuable in his workplace, yes, and not just do manual things that anybody could do.
Now, that's all we have time for in today's episode of the Fintech Show. It's been absolutely incredible hearing from industry leaders like SmartStream, Nationwide, and Mettle to really understand where cloud-based technology is being deployed in the finance industry. But not only that, we're starting to see how it's going to innovate and develop the industry in ways never seen before. So watch this space, and a big thank you to all my guests on the show here today, and an even bigger one to you, the viewers watching home. Thank you so much. And of course, you can catch the rest of the show and much more over at ffnews.com, of course YouTube, and especially LinkedIn, where you'll see me in the comments. Once again, thank you very much, and goodbye.